Welcome to Diving Deeper into Snow Globe, Chapter 11, A Song from the Bottom of My Heart. Seashells Part 2 is probably one of the most vulnerable songs that is on Snow Globe, and I want to use today to talk about it. But first though, I want to talk about the production of it. Overall, it's pretty simple. It has basic elements like keys, bass, you got your drums, and overall, there's not too much going on. And I wanted to create kind of like a simple laid-back track, kind of sort of like Buy You a Rose by AJR, or some sort of John Bellion type thing that had just more feel in the pocket rather than all this production screaming at you. One production element that's kind of cool though is the marimba that you can hear, and a little nod to that is the pattern or rhythm that you hear. The marimba plays the same pattern that the marimba plays in Seashells Part 1. I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit. But in addition to the simplistic part of the production, there's also the orchestra that happens at the end. And that might be my favorite moment in Snow Globe productionally. Although it is MIDI strings, I wish I could have gotten real ones, but although that's the case, having the strings and the scream lead synth, which if you watched the last video on Nosebleed, you'll know how much I love that. Having those two put together just created such an emotional moment. And I felt like it accurately described the feelings that I wanted to get across. So I really am proud of how that section in particular came to be. And when that full orchestra does come in, something that I find really cool is that the simplistic production kind of fades away. When I listen to it, you have the first section with the lyrics, the second section that's just the instrumental with the scream lead doing the melody that my voice sings, and then the third section with the lyrics again. And the drum pattern and the bass happen in both the second and third section. But when the bell comes in, when more of the lush strings come in that third section, for me, I can barely hear the drums and the bass and the keys. It just feels like those things wash out and you're just presented with this big orchestra that's so beautiful and so emotional. And that's the reason why I love it so much. It just kind of takes the forefront and like contrasts the rest of the song, since it was very simplistic, very kind of like hip hop for the first part, and then out of nowhere it's just this whoa, there's this orchestra. Fun fact too about recording this, I did all the recordings, the vocal recordings with Sam Tucker. I've mentioned him a couple times before, but essentially the process that we ran for recording the vocals for this album is I would be up at the mic and he would be at the computer manning the takes, manning when to start, when to stop, such like that. And when it came time to sing and record this song, I was probably noticeably nervous. And Sam caught on quick. And for good reason. This is a very vulnerable song for me to be singing about, and it was about topics that I had really never talked to anyone about before. And kind of confessing it while I'm singing the lyrics into a mic just made me nervous. But I remember he told me like, dude, I know it's vulnerable stuff, relax. And I took his advice, I took a couple deep breaths, and according to him, after that, I was able to really do well. And I think the final product is a result of that, especially when my voice goes up into the high register for the first chorus, and I'm kind of like very boldly singing for the final bridge. So, though it was tough to sing, I think that's a reason why it became good. But now let's talk about the meaning of the song, because ultimately that has a lot more importance than the production. Now, the reason why I really like this song is because it gave me the opportunity to do something I've always wanted to do in songwriting, which is create a trilogy of songs that spans the course of many albums. Essentially, I find it so cool when artists and musicians can write a part 1 in one album and then a part 2 and a part 3 in completely separate albums. It's really cool because then you have this same story happening in different albums, different contexts. But I think it's a really cool way to show how you're growing as a musician, as a writer, as a person. And I really wanted to do that and reflect that. I also love the idea of referencing things, and as you hear more of the music that I'm writing now, you'll definitely see that. But there are a lot of references to part 1 in Seashells part 2, like the marimba pattern, the lyrics in verse 1, last time in the story I was glad she was in my life, and the lyrics of the bridge, which are essentially the chorus lyrics for Seashells part 1, but just kind of changed a little bit to accurately match the position I was in. And kind of a cool thing is I can say there's going to be a Seashells part 3. I knew I wanted to write a trilogy. I didn't know that when I wrote Seashells part 1. I'll be very clear with that. But as I wrote part 2, I was like, I really hope I can write a part 3 for this song. And I'll explain why in a little bit. But ultimately, being able to write a trilogy of songs is cool because it establishes continuity, it establishes accountability for me to write that third song, and it also shows you how the specific area of my life is at different points of time, and I think that's really cool. And essentially what I wanted to do with this song is pull in AJR. If it wasn't already abundantly clear, AJR is my favorite band and has influenced me a lot. I wrote a trilogy about love, they wrote a trilogy about love, but they've really inspired me to write the songs that I want to write, the songs that I want to hear, and to write about those really vulnerable moments in my life, because that is what makes me unique. I've adopted from them the whole idea of, why would I write something that I don't know about? Why would I write something about someone I'm not? So I wanted to be really personal and just dive deep into this topic. The lyrics are a reflection of that. The moment when I was writing with a gray gel pen, the ink ran out, and I realized that that was the last one I had gotten on a date with the person I talked about in part 1 of Seashells actually happened. And that relationship didn't really go anywhere despite how much I liked her. It just kind of created these doubts and feelings in my heart, so that when I went into college, it was just tough for me. And I didn't know what to do with the feelings that I had. I was scared of the potential heartbreak that might not have even happened. But I wanted to tell the truth and sing about something hard and just say that romantic love is tough for me. I've never had any solid relationships in the past, but I have these big Disney-like dreams of falling in love and going on dates, whether that's to a fancy restaurant or just chilling at home watching a TV show with pad thai. I have those dreams, but I have so many doubts that it's tough for me, and I wanted to write about that. And as a result, writing this song was the toughest to write off of all Snow Globe, lyric-wise. In my brainstorming page for this song, I have a couple pages worth of potential verses that I just thought of on a whim when I was thinking about this topic. I just wrote them down, and I had a lot of different options to choose from. And I guess that just shows how cluttered my mind is with this subject. But it was also very therapeutic to write, because when I sat down, was honest with myself, was vulnerable with myself, and allowed myself to say, I have these doubts, I'm scared of uncertainty, will I ever find the one for me? It allowed me to understand more about myself. It helped me kind of wrestle with the fact that I have had doubts and failures in the past, and writing about that has helped me gain a little bit more confidence in that. It's helped me ultimately learn more about myself, and I think, if nothing else, that's important. And one last little thing I want to talk about is, in all the songs on Snow Globe, one of my goals was to have each song have a hopeful undertone. In some of the deeper songs, like Heading Out and Nosebleed, it's the lyrics, though it's cold out there, I can't stay in here because I can't let my life be controlled by fear. But this will end eventually, and then I can go back to sleep. And finding the hopeful undertone for Seashells Part 2 was hard. But ultimately, it was the line, "But I hope that before this new pen runs out, I can meet you on my route and learn what love's about." Even though at the point in time when I wrote the song, I had no answers and only questions and only doubts, I was still hopeful that one day I would be able to look back and be like, that's why I went through those things. And now I can say to my younger self, you're gonna be okay. It's gonna work out. And that's what I'm really hopeful for part 3. I hope part 3 can be the true resolution of this trilogy that just ties it all in a nice little bow. But I guess we're both gonna have to just wait and see for that. So I hope you enjoyed this deeper dive into Seashells Part 2. Not only the production elements, but also why I love the idea of writing a trilogy, and also the immense meaning it has for me. It was a true reflection of my love life at a point in time, and how it was very therapeutic for me to write, as it helped me learn about myself. Next week, we're going to talk about another one of my favorite songs off of Snow Globe, and one that I had the immense pleasure of working with Mio Legaspi on, Two of Spades. And I can't wait to see you then.